Okay, my outstanding friends, this is really, really getting interesting. Really interesting. Now, everybody knows me, knows that I present a scientific, material explanation for everything I talk about. Now, I do go back to the ancient texts to see, does my research validate anything that they had said in the past? And I have found that it validates literally most of it, if not all of it, that we always considered mythology, silly stuff, that just couldn't possibly be true. Because nobody in their right mind would accept it if the evidence didn't support it. The evidence supports it. Now, and then I'm a chemist, I'm an anatomist, I do biology, I do geology, I do all that stuff, 100% of science. Physics, electricity, magnetism. Magnetism is going to be the next one. Anyway, this guy is also a scientist, and he's a chemist, and he's pissed off, as I am. And you listen to what he says. These could be the words coming right out of my mouth. Now listen to this.
I'm ready to go. And I'm going to go right after these guys. And if you've seen some of my recent videos, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going right after their science, and I'm tearing it apart. People who generally are watching YouTube videos on this are not reading the scientific articles. So I'm going to use that medium and go right after them using that medium. Chemists have bemoaned the fact that the world doesn't listen to chemists. They don't really know what's going on in our field. Well, we're getting the word out there now through social platforms. And they'll say, well, why don't you just publish papers? Because I have. Other people have. Nobody's listening. So we're now going to take it to the masses.
All right. He's exactly right. Nobody listens. I have dozens of papers, thousands of YouTube videos, and it literally suppressed by the people that are supposed to be teaching us. And you know why? Because they proved my theory that yes, there was a global worldwide flood that created all my mud fossils. And this has been verified by Yale, and there's virtually nobody on the planet even realizes this, because they slipped the paper in somewhere in their little hidden documents, basically. It's like the Vatican. You see why he's upset? And see why I am upset? I presented this to Yale long before they published this article. Now, they only have, like, I think 150 reads on this whole thing since 2016. That's 6 years ago. I presented this to Yale 4 years earlier, exactly the same thing, that there was a great flood. It caused my mud fossils, which are animals and birds and people and everything. And I have giants, and I have had them DNA tested and CAT scan and everything. And Derek Briggs basically is the one that I tried to, he wouldn't look at it. Now look at exactly what they say. Exceptional preservation of soft-bodied Ediacara biota promoted by silica-rich oceans. Well, what does all that garbage mean? It means that soft-bodied creatures turn solid into rocks in this one specific layer because of a worldwide flood with the silica-rich oceans. Now, follow this through. In this one strata, in this terminal area, in this one strata worldwide, everything all the soft-bodied creatures got preserved. Yet how the fossils are preserved remains controversial. They won't talk to me about it. I know how it got preserved. I've shown it hundreds and hundreds of times. Listen to this. Rapid precipitation of silica cements. All that is the bodily tissues, the bodily fluids. When they reform, they create geopolymers, which is nothing but rocks. I'm telling you, this is all it is. And this is now 6 years ago. Anybody ever hear about this, that they confirmed that there's a worldwide flood? Well, Derek Briggs, the first words out of his mouth to me was, "What are you, some kind of creationist?" Because I said I found these giant human beings. And I have body parts. And I mean, when I say body parts, you can't miss them. There's no question whatsoever what they are. And I had him DNA tested and CAT scan. He still refused to talk. He still refused to talk to me up to today. So that's why we're taking it to the streets and to Yale specifically for suppressing valid information about our authentic history, which has always been laughed at by these people and told you can't teach that here. Don't come here and talk about how the earth was created. That's a special character. You go into those crazy classes. Standard classes, no, we don't teach that. We teach stuff like Derek Briggs teaches. Absolute complete nonsense. All right, look at this. This is hilarious to me. Scientists debunk controversial theory of Stonehenge as a solar calendar. So they're saying, well, we were wrong. It's not a solar calendar. This is Stonehenge. Everybody knows this. Now, I need somebody to go out there and do some on-the-street work for me. Look at this. I'm going to show you in a microscope in a second what you're going to be looking for. And you can easily see it with even something like this. You could get up there and look and see exactly what I need you to see. And take some pictures. Get them to me about Stonehenge. People go there every day. Now I'm going to show you what this is. These are body parts of a giant. This was a monument to a giant. Let me show you. And these are the kind of scientists. Scientists are always saying scientists, oh scientists. Well, who's a scientist? Who's a scientist? Am I a scientist? Are you a scientist? Anybody that goes out and looks and pays attention to something is a scientist. All right, so let's be scientists together. Let's not be denialists. Let's be scientists. All right, you see, here's the experts. They don't even realize this is a foot. I contacted Stonehenge back in about 2012 or so. I said, you got a foot out there. This is called the heel stone. Gee. That's where the blood comes down, the artery, I believe. A vein, probably. The black is the vein. Now, these are the toes. And not only can I tell you that those are toes just by looking at them, I can tell you those are the toes by these little dots at the end. And you say, oh, Roger, why would that be any special thing? Well, I'll show you why it is. Secondly, this died laying like this, sideways over, like basically like this one did. Flat like that. And if somebody on site was there, they could actually see this skin tissue, which has a specific structure to it. It's called fascia. It's a fabric. And I can show you how to look for this. Now, can I show you about these little dots here? Now, in addition to this, there was a twin to this. They called it the heelstone twin. Somebody moved it or took it. And this is about, I don't know, a couple hundred feet down the road from the main structure. Now, let's take a look at everything in one shot. Okay, my friends, I find this extremely interesting because I posted about that Russian angel that they claimed to have found, and then all of a sudden somebody swooped in and took it away, and I've never heard another word about it. I've never seen another thing about this. I think it's a 1-minute clip, that's it. So I've been posting about it, seeing if I can get any more information, and people are sending me things about this and that. Here's one of the things that some people I'm going to be doing webcasts with, or podcasts, whatever you want to call them, are so deep into this kind of stuff. One of them mentioned, do you know about the Cathar prophecy? And I said, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. So as we were rolling through all this stuff about Pistis Sophia and the vestures of light and all, I mean, there's levels of light and regions and realms, and it's just so mind-boggling, and I have no expertise there. So, as we're talking, he says there was a Cathar. They were a group of highly religious, well, not necessarily religious, whatever you want to call them. They were people of love. They were people that professed love and generosity and compassion and understanding, and they had a very nice existence, appears, until they were destroyed by the zealots of, you have to do it just this way, and you have to pray on one knee, or you stand on your head, or whatever it is. And they wouldn't do it. They were just peaceful people. This is what happened. This is the Cathar prophecy, light of the world. This is light. Light is what everything's made of. I don't care how you cut it. If you're made of light, and you are. We're all made of light. And this is what Pistis Sophia is all about, is that we are the light. Let there be light. That means let there be life. All right? That is atomic vapor, and it congeals and condenses into creatures. And 100% of it condenses into living things. I have found nothing that was not alive at one time. Zero. Nothing. Stuff coming through space. 100%. And I've shown this over and over and over and over. And I will go against any geologist, any person that just wants to talk about the cosmos. It's filled with dust and debris, and they're saying it's a vacuum of space. We know none of that stuff is true. And that's why this guy, James Tour, he's upset. I'm upset. They won't listen. It's just like Max Planck said, science advances one funeral at a time. A guy's got to die before you get to another guy gets to be able to talk. Once they're on a stage, you're off the page. They're in control, and that's it. You're out of control. Now, this is what the prophecy was, and this is blowing my mind. I'm telling you, my mind is real shattered right now. Like I said, I was quoting posting about this angel. Look, I couldn't find any defect in that thing that I could say absolutely for certain it was a fake. No way in the world. But I couldn't touch it, so I can't tell. However, if I was absolutely able to walk up and touch it, I could tell you for sure if it had been alive at one time, yes or no. 100% certain. I could tell you that. And I can tell you also about Stonehenge. We're going to go to that in a minute because they're making some big claims about Stonehenge now. It's always a scientist said. The scientist said that. Everybody's trying to get an angle of a mystery so that they can get everybody. Like this thing about this angel. I mean, I'm getting swarmed with people talking about it. More comments on that, more hits on that than virtually anything. And I think people realize we're in a situation right now that we could very well be the last generation if we don't do something. So here's what I'm thinking. Here's what this guy said. These are the most peaceful people on the face of the earth. And they're going to burn this guy at the stake for not bowing down to their religious leaders. So here's what happened. This is the Cathar prophecy. They are the light of the world. Now, there's a Cathar prophecy was spoken by the last known Parfait, Guillaume Belabeste, moments before he was interrogated and burnt at the stake in the Occitan region of southern France on August 24th, 8 a.m., 1321. This prophecy spoke of how we shall return in 700 years when the laurel turns green again. That was 699 years ago, marking 2021 as the year that prophecy begins to get fulfilled. I don't think it's a prophecy that says, okay, bang, it's done at 8 a.m. on the 24th in 2021 or 2022, it's all over, everything's perfect again. No. I think this is a start of illumination, of seeing the light. We're going to be going through Pistis Sophia and all that. I mean, this is just stunning. I mean, to me, it's stunning. And the things that I have found that support these ancient texts cannot be disputed. The dragon in the desert, my giant human beings, they're everywhere, literally everywhere, and now it's been realized, and now we as real scientists and chemists and people that actually touch the molecules and the parts and the rocks, we're starting to take over. Because this nonsense that, light travels forever at the same speed, no, it's just tons of dust. We have no idea where things are in space, and we have no idea what they are in space. I know they're body parts of some sort. They're some kind of a creature's body. And Earth was a corpse and a body, said Jesus Christ. And he's right. And he said, when you find these truths, you will be you will be, I forget how he said it, but he said, you're going to be upset. You're going to marvel and you will wonder or something like that. Hold on. Hold on, I got it right here. All right, he says, whoever discovers interpretations of these things will not taste death. Then this is the one. Those who seek, like us, should not stop seeking until they find. And you really got to do some digging. I'm telling you, everybody's putting up a little thing to try to convert you to this or that and the other thing. Just follow what you can see with your eyes, but you have to open your eyes. He said, when they find, they will be disturbed. That's it. They will be disturbed. Yes, indeed, you will be. Because you'll find out that nothing we've been told about by our teachers and our professors is really valid. When they are disturbed, they will marvel and will reign over all. As soon as you start to understand, you reign. All right? You're just one of the lackeys. If you don't understand, you are nothing more than a subservient of someone who wants to use you for whatever purposes they have in mind, whether it's good or bad. You are being used by them. And absolutely, academics are using the students right now. If you don't say exactly what they tell you to say, they will fail you, ruin your life, keep your money. And they say you can't get a good job unless you come here and pay us for a piece of paper that says you can say what we told you to say. So, James Tour, I loved the way he put it, and I am with him 100%, and you should be with us 100%. So, what we're going to be doing is podcasts, especially on this. There's a serious, deep, call it whatever you want, spiritual, religious, godly realm. There is nobody understands. I mean, nobody. Now, maybe somewhere in the Vatican they know these stories and histories and they have these documents, but to the average person, this is just not even anywhere on their horizon. Just doesn't. For me, if I hadn't found the mud fossils, I'd be laughing at some fool like me standing up saying all these things with no evidence. But with the evidence, there's no more laughing. All there is dismissal and what I call the PhDs, because they are perfectly happy deluded. They are sucking your money down like a straw. This is hilarious. What was the heel stone used for at Stonehenge? The heel stone which is located on the horizon where the summer sunrise occurs, has traditionally served as a marker for the place on the horizon where the summer sunrise occurs. Every year, tens of thousands of people gather and stand and watch this spectacle like a sun. Now and then they just had this out today. This is so hilarious. Today this comes out. Scientists debunk controversial theory of Stonehenge as a solar calendar. Well, it's a monument to a fallen giant. And this heel stone is his foot. And the body is all of that circular thing. When I show you the body parts, you can't miss them once you start looking. And you can go up there and test it. You could actually take DNA. I'm sure you can get DNA out of there if you want. See that? That's the heel stone. It's way down here, and the body is up there. And I'm telling you, these are body parts. I'm going to show you right now. If you have an argument with that, I want to know why. I'm going to show you in some detail that is a heel stone, and these are literally body parts. And they also, I can see, all of these things had died in this great flood, which was not that long ago. These are on the surface of the earth. They didn't dig these up. I didn't dig any of my stuff up. And I have stuff that's just as impressive as this. All right, so how can you tell if Stonehenge is real or not? Well, first of all, again, the flat spots will tell you where that body part ended up. And this, again, I've told this story hundreds of times. Velikovsky, Emanuel Velikovsky, who is my personal hero, did all the research, and there was a flood only 3,500 years ago, and he claims that this was all part of that flood. And now Yale also has verified there was a flood. It's called endocardia. They have all kinds of different crazy things about it, but it was a worldwide global flood in this one layer and preserved all these soft tissue body parts, which this is. It just happens to be from a giant. It was laying flat like this. Mine has the same thing. It was laying flat. Everything I have was laying flat. It's flat on that side. It was because of this flood. My lung, hold on. I got lungs coming out of my ears. Everything on earth died in this flood. And Yale's paper says exactly that. There's a layer that all of the soft-bodied creatures died and were preserved in this mud, in silica-rich oceans, rapid, worldwide, one layer. That's exactly what it says. You haven't heard that. Nobody has, because only 150 people have ever read the paper. That's the problem. It's just like James Tour said. Nobody reads these things. I've put papers after papers after papers. They're starting to get read now. I'm seeing a lot of times, somebody just read your paper. Well, big deal. One guy in the whole world. That's wonderful. This is the fabric you're going to find. Now, you won't find it necessarily in this density. I am going to show you in the microscope what you're going to normally see. This is a lung. Lungs are like rubber bags, and that's, you know, they expand and contract continuously. This is you saw this, how flat this was, I'm sure. That's how the flat part was in the back. And it died, the whole body was there, because this is where the heart would sit. This is a left-hand lung. Any doctor knows that. That's where the heart would have sat. And there's the attachment at the top. The same as this one has an attachment at the top. And they both have flaps at the bottom, which is the attachment at the bottom. This lung has the same thing. And that's a new body part. Nobody realizes that's a separate body part. It's totally different than the rest. Now, this is a lung that everything deteriorated away except the you know, you got a bunch of pleura here, which is the fabric bag. Look at how thick that is. And this is the other part of the lung. Some of it's maybe smushed over, but it's still pretty thick. And that gives you the ability to do that. Again, flat like the pancake. Why? Why? Well, I know why. Because of exactly what Yale says, the great worldwide flood, which created giants that were preserved just as this is. Now, Roger, please explain to us why you can claim this. Well, you see that dot? You see that dot? You see that little thing going over there? You see the two dots on the end of there, the two dots over here, the two dots over here? Well, guess what those are called? Those are called the fingertip terminals, and they are the blood terminals. You want to see what they look like in a hand? Well, I can accommodate you there. Here it is. There's your two little terminals right at the end. They all have them. All my mud fossils have them. And usually the red one, the artery one, will blow out and the black one won't. It depends on how they were sitting. If they were sitting up like that, nothing happens because the water, all of the stuff drains down. But if they were in this condition, well, here, I have one here. Oh, somewhere. Oh, boy. Oh, here it is. All right. There's a fingertip. Hold on. Always bring a little water with you to look when you do this stuff so you can see them a little better. Now, let me put some light on this. You see that? That's a fingertip. Now, when I say that if the fingers are running down this way, the blood will drain out, and it blows right out of the fingertip. That's artery. That's an artery. It blows right out of the fingertip. The vein sides don't blow out. The other side was the vein. This side would have blown out, but it was the way it was packed in, probably against another tip. It just ran off the end. But some of them will blow out on the sides and the tip. I have one over here. Hold on. Never mind. I got it. I'll show you later. But it blew out both sides and the tip, but just on the artery side, on the artery side. The vein sides, they seal off. They don't blow out. And I'll show that to you. And I have other ones here. I just have so much stuff. It's incredible. And everybody that goes out can find these within minutes. So here you go. Another one, same day today. Nope, Stonehenge isn't an ancient calendar after all, the scientists say. Well, scientists, let's look at the real truth of what's going on here. The scientists can't say, other than what other scientists say. It's straight across the board. They all say exactly the same thing. That's why you see it this one, the next one, the next one, the next one. We all know it now. It's all solved now. And then the next couple of weeks later, well, we were all wrong. Yep, now we all agree we were wrong. As long as they agree, everything's fine. That's what's called peer review. You don't say what everybody else says, well, go away. Okay, I want you to look at this black pattern right here. I'm going to put a little water on there, and you'll see it for an instant. It should blacken up nice. This is a fingertip, and one side, the artery is blown completely out. The other side are sealed off. You see this side? These are the ones that are sealed off. Well, anyway, I'll show it to you in a second. But that black pattern is that exact same thing on the fingertip. All right, you see the very fingertip, and then, whoops, and then remember this disc. You see those discs? Because you're going to see that at Stonehenge too. Now, let's look at that pattern. And again, I have to do it with this kind of light because it's very hard to see that. When it first came out of the ground, it was just nice and black, and I said, wow. But now it's dried up. But I put a little bit of moisture in there, and it comes back for a second. You see it? See it coming back? That's the fingertip right there. That is exactly what that fingertip is. You see it right there? Same thing. Identical. Now, let's look at what the blood supply looks like. Now, that's why I say you got to have water. Water is the key to being able to see a lot of detail. And when I first took the stuff out of the ground, you know, there was a lot of it was already out of the ground. There was no digging whatsoever to do. But some of it was still in the mud. And the stuff that was still in the mud came out, literally some of it bled. And I'll show you the ones that actually did bleed. But the blood was just everywhere. I mean, it was like a slaughter. Now, what is happening with that fingertip? That is one of these fingertips. Now, that's the side that's sealed off. You see it? This side here, sealed right off. That's the two side holes. The end hole here is sealed right off. However, the artery side blows right out. Blew right out. Blew right out. Blew right out. These sealed up. They still have the tube in there. And inside there's little clamps that say once you go into the vein side to go back up, this is coming back to the heart. Once you go there, you can't go back anymore. This has no restrictions. All three of them, see them? Boom, boom, boom. And what is the boom, boom, boom? Well, here's the boom, boom, boom. It is right here. They all have boom, boom, booms. Boom, boom, booms. Well, as far as I know, they all have the artery comes down with a red blood. Very fluid, very liquid, just runs right out if it can run out, just like this one did. Alright, and it ran right out only on one side. Now, this one the same thing, ran right out only on the one side, but all three of them. So what I know how this was placed when he died. He died with this hand down like this, and the blood tried to force its way through, and it did. But the black never blows out, except one time. I have a toe from a giant that the black blew out, and it creates what's called bitumen. And when I show you what bitumen is, or maybe I already have, it's blood. Bitumen and all of the petrochemicals, 100%. Are from bodily fluids or from biodegradable plants and so forth. They do have some of that same chemistry in them, but blood, that is the key. That's the stuff that you really can make hydrocarbons out of. And it sort of works its way over the course of a long time, under pressure, and as the molecules change. There's a lot of chemistry going on there. And pressure is a big factor. And then, of course, all the salts and all the different types of metals and everything that was in that bodily fluid, because it could have come from the heart, it could have come from the lungs, it could have come from the liver or the kidneys or wherever it was. You got these fluids everywhere. And so then you got all these different grades of petrochemicals, bitumens, and dirty oils and clean oils, and really it's a variety of chemistry based on the pressures, pHs, time and duration, all that stuff, and basically what body part is started from. All right, here's what I want you to look at. This black spot and that right there, the reason this is black is because it's vein blood, it's black blood, and it's just, they very, very leak out very much at all. Now, that's the hole that it came from. Now, this is in my microscope, and this is from my no-toe that I have here. Now, I'm going to put a little taste of water on there. Like I say, I always like to put the water on. It makes a big difference in what you see. Let me dry it up a little bit. All right, you see what the red blood sucks this up like instantaneously. See all the red spots around here? All of these little balls are interstitium. That's the fabric that holds your skin together so that it can stretch and all that, but it will come back to where these balls are. That's what's called interstitium. Even in your, well, I have my belt. As a matter of fact, I'll show you my belt. It has exactly the same stuff. Now, we are looking at that foot right here in my microscope. All right, you see where we're looking? We're looking right at the same spot as the black blood there in the heel stone. If you were able to get there and look at it and see what you see, you're going to see something very similar to that. And if that was a sample that was taken, that's blood. Now, that's the black blood, that's the expended blood, and it's called hematite. There's going to be other stuff that's red. Let me get a red spot, and then we'll look at that. Okay, here's my no-toe again. This is the fascia fabric. This is the straps and the balls. This is where some red blood has seeped in, and you'll find these kind of transitions. There'll be a lot of red blood, and it'll be red bloody-ish, and then you'll go right into the fabric. Now, I'm going to put a little water on this one, same thing. All right, watch how that red turns nice and red. It really does. It's very, very quick, too. It loves water. We are water creatures. See how red that's turning? Now, if I put that hydrogen peroxide on there, they're going to bubble up like crazy. And you could do that at Stonehenge, too. I mean, you're not hurting anything. But this is the fabric of life. Now, I'm going to move it towards where it's really fabricy. You see this? That is exactly what you're going to see on my belt. I'm going to show you in a second. And this is on this no-toe. This is the fabric of this no-toe right there. That's what we're looking at right now. You have to have the lights down so it shows up good. Alright, genuine leather. This is not some fake stuff. It's in the microscope right here. There's a microscope looking down at it. I gotta turn the lights off. Now, we're going to see what that looks like in the microscope, and here's what it looks like. Now, if this is what's called tanning. Tanning means they take the hide, which is the really thickest part of the hide, in this case, for a belt, and they take that hide and then they roll it and scrape it and do it to rip off everything except this fabric. And then they roll this and crush the balls. These are the balls. And they're everywhere. Some of them aren't completely crushed. Most of them are sort of like flattened out. And these are all these fabrics. And what are the fabrics? Well, they're big, long straps. They are literally pretty long straps. You don't see it here, but I'll show you how we can see it. And how we can see it is if I move this to where I have a belt loop, because that's where it gets disrupted. And there they are right there. You see it? Every one of those has a strap. Every one of those balls. You see them? These are all the balls. And they all have these straps. And they're not short. They're long. And this makes a very, very, very strong fiber. You know, a flexible belt. I mean, that's what leather's all about. And the different types of leather give you different types of structural support. Some are very fine leather. And then you have all kinds of different animals, so you have different types of leather. But it's basically all the same thing. It's these balls and straps. They can stretch and pull and move and all that when you're alive. When you're dead and they do that to it, it becomes a mat. In this case, a belt. Okay, so let's try to put some things together. We know the heel stone's way down there, and as far as I'm concerned, you should know by now it's a foot. That is all body parts. We're going to take a real close look at that, and it is what it is, if it is what it is, and it is what it is. Remember these plates here. Remember those? Well, where do you see those? Here's where you see them, right here. Right there, right above the fingertips. That right there, my friends, I believe is an actual fingernail. And that is the heavy-duty investment on the side which holds that finger so it does this. I have one here. Oh, here it is. Right there. Now this one is more deteriorated than that one. That one still has more, well, pretty much that right there. Now, here's the key though. That's the part right there that holds it in, latches it into your body so you can do this. That is a very integral part. And that is, I can see in the CAT scans we had done, that the fingernail came down right about to this area here. I might show you the CAT scan, maybe not, but it would have come out here and around just like this one does. And that would have been the bottom, and this is where these anchors are. They're right next to the fingernail. And this is the bottom pads of the finger. Exactly like yours. I have a couple of CAT scans I'll show you of this, and that's where the bone was. Now, also the red blood is down here. Pumps down exactly like the red blood is here. You see that? Nobody's ever looked at this before. Nobody painted that, I don't think. This is red blood. And this also is an artery, I believe. The arteries blow out. And the reason you see this green stuff growing on these is that's where anything that has bloody tissue to it grows. All right, now that's why I think this one was a finger like this, and this is the fingernail. This one I think is a finger like this, and this is the bottom side growing here. You see how it's got this wrinkly thing? This has to be looked at closely, but this would be like a finger pad going down instead of this one going up. But it's still growing green wherever there's a lot of tissue that at one time was bloody. And that same thing here. It's not growing there for no reason. It's growing all over these things. This was all body tissue. I know this quite well. I've studied this very, very, very carefully. And you can too. You can go up here and look at this. So you can go up to that heel stone and go right up to the heel stone if you can. I don't know if you can or not, but this is what you're going to look for is the black blood here. This is the flat side. You're still going to have all that fabric, I believe I showed to you, which was all the fabric, and you're going to, you know, these are the blood tips, the terminals of the, you see, dot, 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 dot. I showed you on my stuff, same thing. I'm sure I did show you. Alright, we'll believe you saw that, which is this one here. And that's where the blood blows out. And at the end, they have the two. One of them blew out and one of them doesn't blow out. These clamped off. But that still has that same hook, see? Same hook as this one. You see that? Alright, this one's just way, way, way eroded. And it was hanging down at this end. This one was up in the other end, apparently, and didn't erode as much as that one. Some of the flesh eroded away. It would have been like about like that. And that's where the fingernail bed was. And you can see it in the CAT scans. Anyway, somebody can go out there and do this. And that's what we need, is the people do these on-site investigations. People are walking around here all day long. Look at all these people. Look at them all. Somebody should be able to go up and take a couple of pictures of this and look at it. Maybe even take some samples. If you want to do some DNA, do some DNA. I don't care what you do, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's literally zero chance that I'm wrong about this. Literally zero. And there's no question I'm right about my stuff, which is this fingertip here. And there's that pad that you saw sitting up on top of some of the other fingers at Stonehenge. Here's my fingernail, and that's the snap I broke off. I might have showed you this 3 or 4 times already. I don't care. I keep showing it because nobody pays attention. Just like that guy James Tour says. Nobody pays attention. We're going to go on to social media. Pay attention. Spread the word. I'm showing things that can't be denied. So don't let them be denied. But you have to be the ones that push this. I can't do it. I'm getting as far as I can get, and it's just not that far enough. Because people still have no idea about it. It appears they don't, or they just don't want to know. And there are both. There's both that never heard of it, and there's other ones that heard it and just don't want to know. And that's okay. But they should at least be able to hear it, and then they can make, I don't want to know, or I want to know. That's where I'm coming from. And now we're going to have our own library, which will be all the books, that'll be written about the mud fossils and all the discoveries that we find as we go forward, because it changes everything. It changes our history, it changes geology, it changes anthropology, it changes basically spirituality, religion. All of those things are now pretty well supported. There's some very, very solid evidence. I mean, well, there's no question that the things are pretty much true that were written about in the past. Giants, dragons. The dragon in the desert is Typhon. Look up Apollodorus 1.6.3. And then look at the Atlas Mountains that run all entirely across North Africa, which is Typhon. That when he stood up, his head often brushed the stars. And that is exactly true. His head would have been minimum twice as high as the space station. All right? Don't ask me how they breathed or what happened. They say he was thrown to Earth. Now, were they all thrown to Earth at the same time? I have no clue. But we are going to start to dig around in this forbidden zone. It's basically a forbidden zone. You can't go to school and talk about this. They'll throw you right out. They'll destroy you. They'll ostracize you, and you will be on your own and lost your money and be called an idiot and get your little idiot signature at the bottom of your paper saying I went to some special school. They told me I was an idiot for thinking. And that's what's going on right now. Education has destroyed knowledge. Okay, I believe I showed you, or I will show you right now, this particular, that's what's called distal phalanges. Now you can see it turn black for a second. You see it? That's that figure, that's that right there. That's that distal phalanges, and you should be able to see it. And these are the blood supplies at the bottom coming in to feed it. There's that little disc between them. You see that? That's what's called an apical tuft. That's it right there. You see it? And in these apical tuft, there's a ton of little holes. And these little holes hold onto these little round balls, just like that. And there'll be a ball in every one of those. And then the straps come running down to your tendons. And that's this one here, but it's extremely eroded. And again, the artery side blows out, and blows out. That's where the three blood supplies are. These clamp off. That is a vein, but it's clamped off. So is that one up there. And there's that latch that holds it. You see these things here? Those that are going right there. All right, so, and I have bones like this, that scab, when you take it out of the ground, there's a blood scab on it. This is not unknown. This is just unexamined. All right, and here's the fingertip that I had showed you before, and there's that little cleave in it, the same thing as this one here. And the same thing that was at Stonehenge. And there's where the fingernail would have gone. And of course it would have been quite a bit bigger than that. But the CAT scans can give you some details, but the problem with mud fossils is that when they convert, virtually they completely convert to the same materials everywhere. The only difference is the black blood it turns into magnetite. I think I might have said hematite before for the black, but the black is magnetite. It only has 2 oxygens. The red just flows right out because it's so fluidy, and there's no valves. That's why. These are clamps. There's clamps in here. I think I've told this about 1,000 times. And you see the artery, I mean the vein side tubing is still there. Yeah. All right, you see that? I've shown that this is the apical tuft that sits at the end. These are these tendons. And you see the latch, the 2 little... They latch in just like this. The same thing with this one. This is much heavily eroded. This is the vein side that clamps off these clamps, and on the tip it clamped off as well. The other side is wide open. But this is the main thing I want you to see, is these little angles. And that's these little tendons that lock in there. Of course, they flap over this way. They're just showing you opened up. Now, and then, of course, this side, the arteries blow right out, and the same thing on the end. This side, they don't blow out, they clamp off, and the same thing on the end. All right, so I think I've shown you some pretty good evidence. Now, we're going to take one last couple quick, well, let me just show you a couple things, and we'll finish it up pretty quick. Okay, I'm just going to go real quick over the last little bits and pieces. I know I showed you the fabric. This is the kind of stuff you're going to look for, and the other things I showed you in the microscope. I showed you the giant fingertip fingerprints, the palm. That again is more fascia. That's from a really red bloody spot. And of course this is on the lung. It's kind of really pronounced on the lung. Fingertip, the bone, and the different dark blood, and right there, that black spot is the vein, and that's the tendon that comes up to lock in these things here. Now, the same thing on the other side, except that one is where the artery was, and it just runs out, and of course that's the bone. Now, again, in the mud fossil CAT scans, very difficult to see because it's nucleophilic substitution. This is that fingertip. Now you remember, this is the bone right here. There it is right there. Okay, you see it's just sitting just like this. Now, or actually it's like this. No, it's not. It's like this. And anyway, the bone is, you can just barely see it. Very, very hard to make it out because this is a complete substitution of the materials. Now, there's going to be some zones that don't exactly it changed to the exact, like all of the flesh. The flesh is going to be just a taste different than the bone material because there may be some calcium or whatever it is. But there's going to be some little differences, but very little when you're in the mud fossil. And this is a mud fossil. Now, the other types of mud fossils that are not quite as so heavily modified, which is this is what you call modification. And this is heavily modified. That's just like, they would call this mudstone. Well, it's not mudstone, it's a fingertip that just eroded. And there's a whole hierarchy of how they rate from clay to mudstone to then these aggregates and so forth all the way up to limestone. And all they are is different body parts. Basically, that's all it is. I'm telling you, that's all geology is different body parts. All right, so that's it. That's the end of the story for today. Now, this covers a lot of territory here. Our ancient past has been misrepresented completely, 100%. Now, if you want to live in delusion and be perfectly happy deluded and get your PhD, that's fine. I don't do that. And maybe you won't, maybe you will. It's up to you. So this is what you just saw. If it means anything to you, stick around, because we're going for what was written in the ancient past. And I have, like I said, I have some very, very, very talented people that have done the research on this. Not just, oh, they're guessing this, guessing that. Oh, don't listen to that, it's silly. No. We are the kind of people that are really scientists. A scientist examines, compares, see what's supported, what isn't supported, what materials can validate or invalidate what you're looking for. Invalidation is just as good as validation. I see either one as totally acceptable. That's the problem. They don't see it that way. They have to be validated or they lose their status. I don't have any status. I'm just a guy in the street with a loud voice. And I'm getting a lot of people following now, and I have a lot of very, very interested, literally researchers. There's no degrees here. I mean, some of them have degrees. I have friends I have one that has 3 PhDs. I won't hold it against them. I'm just kidding, Andy. He's a bacteriologist. He's not just some theoretical guy. Now, anyway. It's time we make a change to the way we think. All right? Once you see both sides of the equation, then you can make your own decision. But right now, you're being just like that kid was, oh, this is how concretions work. I think I showed you that, the concretion guy. I got interrupted several times, so I'm sort of lost here, but that it happens literally every time. There's so much. Literally everything is wrong. I mean, just literally everything. Geology's wrong. Our history's wrong. Mythology, totally wrong. Things coming through space are still biological. The whole universe is completely different than they thought. It's completely saturated with particles, so Hubble and all that stuff doesn't work the way they say. We have no idea how far things are. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. Light is slowing down. It's not that it's just ripping away from us because of the expansion of the universe. That's somebody's fairy tale that made them very important to all their little friends, and then they all say, oh, Bobby said it, so it's got to be true. And that's what happens. And then, just like Max Planck said, science advances one funeral at a time. Okay, what if this was really an actual dragon in the desert in Morocco and it was gigantic like this? What if this was actually his throat? And what if this was actually his red flaming eye? And what if this was actually his streaming, hairy, unkempt body? And what if this was actually flaming fire spit from his mouth? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Here's what he looks like without being sketched in, so you might not see the same thing easily. But you can go back to that other one, and this is what he looks like from here all the way across North Africa to here. Here's his legs, that the upper part look like the thighs of a human, and the lower part are coils of a viper. He's attacking this giant fish. You have Google, shown it 100 times, hundreds literally of videos on this. All right, so you say, Roger, you've shown us all these giants and all of this stuff, and I have DNA tests on the things I showed you. That one, giants, I've had them on all, well, 3 different DNA tests. This one, the giant 3-foot long fingertip, and this one, which is This is, I think, 4 feet wide, 3 or 4 feet wide, the hand. So this one was substantially smaller than this one. This one here was like the one, where's the fingerprint? This one here. That's like 3 feet long. And again, there's the pad that's underneath. There's the little flutes, the same exact same thing that was in Stonehenge. Identical. No difference whatsoever. There's that circle, there's little grooves through them. There's the fingertips. And again, you can go up and look at all that fascia, which will be very similar to this right here. All right, and then you'll be able to find some areas where there's blood coming out, and I can show you one right here. I showed it to you. I think I did. There's still red blood coming out of these things. That's why these things are growing on blood. Fingers and toes are just absolutely 100% saturated with blood, and plant life absolutely thrives on blood. So you say, Roger, ooh, that's exciting. Does it have any meaning? I think it does. Because all the things that we've always thought were just silly have now become very interesting, such as Apollodorus. He wrote, I believe it was 180 BC. Now this is 1.6.3. If you start at 1.1 and go up to here, your mind will be like shattered on the floor. But here we are all the way up at 1.6.3, and here's what it says: when the gods had overcome the giants, Earth was more enraged and had intercourse with Tartarus, which is like hell, and brought forth Typhon. Typhon is the thing I just showed you in the desert. Now listen to exactly what it says. It was a hybrid between man and beast, in size and strength surpassed all the offspring of earth. As far as the thighs go, which I showed you, he was of human shape and of such prodigious bulk that he outtopped all the mountains, and his head often brushed the stars. It's 1,100 miles long. One of his hands reached out to the west, the other to the east, and from one projected 100 dragon's heads, which I cannot find. I haven't really looked hard enough, but there's all kinds of goop all over the place there. From the thighs downward, he had huge coils of vipers, which I have found. When they're drawn out, they reached to the very head and emitted a loud hissing. His body was all winged, unkempt, hair streamed on the wind from his head. Listen to this, and his cheeks. Fire flashed from his eyes. I showed you the red eyes. Such and so great was Typhon, when hurling kindled rocks, he made for the very heaven with hissing and shouts, spouting a great jet of fire from his mouth, which I showed you that as well. And when the gods saw him rushing at heaven, they made for Egypt in flight, and being pursued, they changed their forms into those of animals. This is just so stunning. And then Zeus comes in and he cuts him with his thunderbolts. I'm telling you, we need a complete, total, everything. I mean, I'm going to have a new library. We have a new, just like the Library of Alexandria. Well, we're going to have the Library of Tucci. Paul Armatucci is writing these books, and you should buy some of these. He writes a lot of books, and basically he's almost like Ovid was. So what does he do? He gets research that somebody else has done. A lot of research been ignored, totally like me, and totally like Velikovsky, and totally like basically everybody, this other guy James Tour. So then he compiles it and makes it into very, very, very engaging, understandable, easy to read, lots of places to make notes. This is our true history. If you want to be educated, and we're going to have them on light, we're going to have them on the universe, on the planets, on the gods. And this is my new library I have just started. It's going to be similar to like this. You see this here? This is what Audubon Society was. Now, at some point, we'll maybe do this. I don't know. But they show all the different pictures, and we'll have pictures of rocks and things like this at some point. And then there'll be text that'll say on page 27, you'll see this and da 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 da. And where are these things located and where do you find them? These are good books. I have all their series of, we have the insects, spiders, and the trees and birds, and this is true knowledge. This is true understanding. Look at it, think about it, see where they are, where do they live, what do they eat, and what do they live on, what's the biology, what's the anatomy, what's the geology in that area, which is what creature died there. That's all geology is now. It's just dead things that have turned into almost exclusively mud fossils. Again, not even my words. I mean, they are my words, but they were also said by this paper right here somewhere. I got it. Did you see it right here? No. I don't know where it is. But look, this is what we're going to be doing. It's Pistis Sophia. I don't know. It's a Yale paper. I got so much stuff. I got to go through this. You know what I'm going to do? I got to clean this up. This is just a mess. I am going to go through all of this stuff and at the same time clean it all up. Look at this. Whoops, not this one. This is a historical circle they found. It looks to me like it's a giant bone. Let's clean that one up. This one here, look at this. This is why I'm saying we got to check everything out. This is supposedly an Islamic version of Jesus when he was born in the crib like a baby, not even supposed to be able to speak. He gets up and says to Mary, well, here's what it says. Syriac infancy gospel, known as the Arabic infancy gospel, the New Testament apocrypha of the infancy of Jesus. And it says they were copied in the area of northern Iraq and show influences from the Quran. And it was from the Quran. And here's what it says. Here's what it says right down here. Look at this. The Arabic gospel of the infancy of the Savior. This is the Arabic. Now, it says, he has said, this is in quotes, he has said that Jesus spoke, and indeed when he was lying in his cradle, said to Mary his mother, I am Jesus, the Son of God, the Logos, whom thou hast brought forth, as the angel Gabriel announced to thee, and my Father as Gabriel announced to thee, and my Father has sent me for the salvation of the world. And that's in the Quran. Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Quran. Now listen to this one. She pointed to the babe. They said, how can we talk to one who is a child in the cradle? He said, I am indeed a servant of Allah. He hath given me revelation and made me a prophet, and he hath made me blessed wherever so I be, and hath enjoined me on me prayer and charity as long as I live. Now listen to this. He hath made me kind to my mother, and not overbearing or miserable. So peace is on me the day I was born and the day that I die. That was a very, very violent day. But he said peace would be on him the day he died. Now he's a prophet. It appears to me, if he was in the infant, I mean, there were so many things about Jesus. And this is in the Quran. This isn't even in the Christian Bibles. And I've had a lot of people that are Islamic or are related to Islamic people tell me this. They say, yeah, this is they understand this. They know that Jesus was supposedly, special. I always thought they thought he was just a regular guy. but he was, you know, not like anything related to God. He was just like, well, we're all related to God, but he was just a regular guy off the street that was a nice guy, and everybody loved him, and he did nice things, and but he wasn't like divine. Although that shows me, if he did that, I would have to go with he's a divine creature. And everything I've heard about Jesus, I'm going with Jesus 100%. Because I now know that all these things, I just showed you dragons, giants, all of these ancient texts, Typhon. If you can't see that there's something going on here, then your eyes are glued shut. And they are the ones they talk about. Their eyes will never, they'll see, they'll never see. They'll hear, they'll never hear. They don't want it. Their minds are closed. Let them be. So do what you want, but I think it's time to have a very, very, very large-scale discussion about this. And I'm just going to do whatever I can do. And I have some people now that are extremely, extremely skilled in these areas. Well, let me put it this way. They have a lot of knowledge regarding the ancient texts, which have been just totally laughed at. Absolutely totally laughed at. Because they are so spectacular. You know, Enoch just talking about giants being 2.5 miles tall. You know, who's going to believe that until you see with your own eyes? And that's even tiny. That's tiny. That's like a tick living on an 1,100-mile long dragon. He wouldn't hardly even know the guy was there. It's time to start over. Okay, check this out, because this is going to be the next video. This is mainstream geology, and this is a kid. I would expect more from him than he would just accept this. But listen to what he has to say. All he's doing is reading back what they told him to read.
Ah, it's me again. This mysterious-looking object is actually an example of one of my favorite geologic features. That's a great first date question, by the way. What's your favorite geologic feature? If they say esker, put a ring on it immediately. This weird-looking thing is what is known as a concretion, and despite looking like something which is man-made, it's actually entirely natural. Concretions form inside sedimentary rock layers, and from the colors and textural layering that we can see in this video, I would hazard a guess that this is a sedimentary cliff. Concretions can come in all different shapes and sizes. Their formation begins during the very early stages of the development of sedimentary rock, while it is still silt or sand or something, in this case, finely sorted. A little fucking rock will get in, or an acorn, or someone will drop a tic tac into it, and over millions of years of compression, it will create this cool little node. Sometimes they can have fossils inside, and sometimes young Earth creationists think that they're footprints. So I hope that answers your question, guy walking on a beach.
Well, yeah, that works good. Where do you see what they really are?